Co-hosting 101. So we're going to go over just what co-hosting is, what the differences are between co-hosting and property management. I'm also going to talk about the differences between co-hosting and arbitrage and why I think arbitrage is failing for most people and why I believe co-hosting is a much better route to go if you're starting a short-term rental business right now. What are the three things that are the most important that you need before starting or growing your co-hosting business? We're going to talk through market selection as well. So, how to select the market that is going to be right for you, that is also going to be lucrative for you. And then, lastly, going to be going through kind of the acquisition funnel. The co host funnel is what I call it, it's an acronym. We're going to be going through that so that you have it for yourself and you can know kind of where you're at inside of that funnel for your company. And then, lastly, I've got a special giveaway at the end if you stick on all the way till the end. And let's go ahead and get started, guys. If this training is going to be for folks that have, 0 to 5 properties, really. And if you have more than that, we're really going to be going deep on the acquisition funnel. And you're going to want to stay probably another 10 minutes until we dive into that acquisition funnel. So, what is co-hosting? Co-hosting 101. So, co-hosting is an interesting term. Some people call it property management. Some people call it vacation rental management. It doesn't have to be a vacation rental, but at the end of the day, you are providing services for a homeowner that owns that property, right? So those services could be full service, like a traditional property manager. That's what my company offers. We offer everything, basically a done for you service for the homeowner. And the way I explain it, I actually explained it to somebody this morning. He was asking me, he's interested in me managing his property or me co-hosting his property. He was like, what's the difference between a co-host and a property manager? And I was like, well, it's tough to really understand because everybody's got a different definition of co-hosting. And for us, we operate like a traditional property manager, in my opinion. So, what we do is we send the homeowner an ACH by the 15th of every single month with the owner payout, and we take care of everything else. Okay. So, all they do is get a report and they get a payout in their bank account, and it's a totally passive engagement for them. Now, if there is any maintenance or any service needed that's above our threshold of $300, so let's say the HVAC goes out and we provide a solution that is above $300, I am actually supposed to reach out to them and ask them, hey, what should I do in this case, guys? So I take care of the pricing. I take care of the cleaners. I take care of the guest communications. I take care of the listing, optimizing the listing, creating the listing, the supplies, all that sort of stuff is my responsibility. Now, the expenses that go in with the property, I don't pay for any utilities. We don't pay for any supplies or anything like that. That's all at the owner's expense. But we charge 20% as our standard management fee that it comes out of the daily rent. The cleaning fee is my income. I pay the cleaners out of that cleaning fee. And then the owner basically gets the rest. Any supplies that need to be, toilet paper, paper towels, like welcome gifts, that sort of thing, that is all at the owner's expense as well. So that's how we run our company. There's other different ways that people do it. Some people don't like to do the maintenance as much, right? Or some people don't like to handle the funds either. So Airbnb has a way that you can direct payouts. And so, whatever your percentage is can go straight to your bank account, and whatever their percentage is can go to their bank account. And so you're not actually, taking any funds and holding them in what's called a trust account. Now we're getting a little deep on the accounting. Traditional property managers, especially like long-term property managers, they operate usually in most states using trust accounting. And so what trust accounting is all of the money, the rent goes into a bank account. And that is honestly, it's a liability account. So it's an account that really that money is not, in my case, my company's money. That is the rent that is coming from the owner or from the tenants, right? From the guests. Now, most of that money is due to the homeowners. So I can't, use that money that's in there to pay my employees out of or, pay for software out of, right? For my company. And so there is a lot of transactions and there's a lot of due diligence and a lot of, honestly, bookkeeping that you need to do if you are accepting the funds and running trust accounting. When I first started, I didn't know anything about this, right? And I was actually in a spreadsheet going through, and trying to figure out what transactions were what and what property it went to. And it was just basically a whole mess. And this was 5 years ago, and until I hired a bookkeeper. And if you are accepting the funds on behalf of the homeowner, so if you're running trust accounting, or you should be running trust accounting, you absolutely, absolutely, absolutely need a bookkeeper. If you need a bookkeeper or an introduction to my bookkeeper, just drop a bookkeeper in the comments and I will send you a training on how to do bookkeeping the right way and how traditional property managers do it, and how co-hosts, if you're accepting the funds, you need to be doing trust accounting and you need to have a good bookkeeper. And if you don't think you have a good bookkeeper that knows short-term rentals, put bookkeeper in the comments and I will send you that training, because that is honestly the most important part of accepting the funds, is making sure that you're doing those transactions and categorizing those transactions correctly. Okay. So I went deep into the accounting method. I also explained a little bit about what a co-host does. There are other versions of co-hosting. You could just do pricing and just do marketing. And the homeowner takes care of everything. You could just do guest communications and the homeowner, does the pricing and does, the distribution of the listings. So meaning on Airbnb, on Verbo, maybe their own direct booking. There's a lot of different flavors of co-hosting. What you need to do is you need to figure out what that looks like for you. What I teach and what I recommend is act like a full service property manager. And if you need a license for that, either get a license, find somebody who can be licensed and work with you, or don't accept the money. Don't accept the funds. Just do marketing services and just do co-hosting services on behalf of the owner, and the owner gets all the money and you invoice them for your services. So you have to look at what are the rules and regulations and laws in the state that you're going to be operating in. You can check with, a local attorney. You can check with a real estate attorney. You can ask people in the Facebook group here in Short-Term Rental Seekers Facebook group. You can ask, hey guys, what's the property management rules for vacation rentals in Florida? There's a lot of gray area in different states. So what I typically tell people is do your research, but figure out what you want to offer as a host. Like, what do you want to focus on? If you don't want to be worrying about the maintenance and stuff, create an offer based on what you want to do, because there's a lot of different things that you can do as a property manager or as a co-host, right? The reason I like this method and co-hosting / property management, managing property for other people, the reason I like this a lot more than arbitrage is, if you want to get a 2-bedroom place to arbitrage, if you want to do it the right way and you want to design it the right way so it stands out, you want to photograph it the right way so it stands out. We're paying premium long-term rental rents right now. It's just, it kind of is what it is. It's not 2019, 2018 right now. It's not the beginning of Airbnb. I'd rather take 20 grand that I would spend furnishing a 2-bedroom place the right way and invest that into people, into a process, into a mastermind, into a coach to teach me how to, go and scale a business without adding more income, right? So you can take that 20 grand and go invest that into a mentor or into a coach that can teach you and show you how to go acquire contracts that will continue to pay you. So the way that you would scale through arbitrage is you would invest that 20K into a property, hope it turns out, right? And then maybe get your money back, maybe get that 20K back within 6 months. That's what I say. If you can't get your money back in an arbitrage deal within 6 months, then get out of that deal immediately, as fast as possible. And then you got to start over again. You got to go arbitrage another property, which means you got to furnish it. You got to put last month's rent down. You got to put a security deposit down. You got to just flush all this cash into a property that you don't even own. I'd much rather you take, if you got 100K, I'd much rather you take that 100K. Well, actually, you probably need about 175 to 200,000 right now to buy a property. Minimum. So that's a little bit different of a conversation. If you're going to purchase a property, you need at least 200 grand right now to put into the down payment and then also to the furnishing and design. You need to be able to stand out. There are way too many properties that you're competing with. But coming back to my original point, you don't need that much cash. You just need the skill of how to run a property the right way, how to host, how to do the guest communication, how to do the pricing, how to acquire contracts, co-hosting, property management contracts, and then that income, really for your first 5 properties, I'd say 90% of that income that you get is going to be pure profit, because it's just going to be your time spent on the property, right? And then it's going to be the software costs. So the software costs, I teach you how to how to charge a tech fee. So I mentioned earlier, my fee is 20% of rent, but then I also charge a $140 a month tech fee. And so that tech fee covers my bookkeeping. It covers my occupancy tax software that, I can take direct bookings and then be able to pay the occupancy tax without me even having to, learn all the rules and then mail in checks and stuff like that. So Avalara is who I use to do that. Pays for Hospitable, pays for Price Labs, pays for Hostfully, pays for HostBuddy. All my tech stack, which I can do another training on, just drop tech stack in the comments. All that is covered by that $140 a month tech fee. So let's say the property is, let's say the owner wants to go use the property. I work with a lot of second homeowners. Let's say the homeowner wants to go use the property for a month. I'm not losing any money by still having that property listed for that entire month, right? That's why I charge that $140 tech fee. So, the money, again, coming back to my point, the money that you have to spend to scale arbitrage, if you want 5 properties, you're going to need, at least 200 grand to scale an arbitrage just to get to 5 properties. And that's just in 1 year. And then you may get your money back like 18 months later. It just doesn't work anymore just because the rent costs and everything that has happened with the long-term rentals, it just makes more sense to long-term rent. So that is why you need to be able to, use that money to find a skill like co-hosting that you don't have to put a bunch of money into to bring in some income. And it's also just safer. You never know when a landlord is gonna say, "Hey, I'm gonna bump up your rent by 30% this year," or "Hey, I'm gonna terminate, because I don't like what you're doing." Right? You should always get agreement beforehand, and not everybody teaches the right way for arbitrage, but honestly, arbitrage is like it's about 6 years old. So if you're still looking at it, or maybe if you're still into it, I would look at other ways. I'm gonna transition into what you need in order to start. The first thing that you need in order to start, or really if maybe you got a couple properties and you want to grow this thing, maybe it's just kind of a side hustle for you. The first thing you need is you need a why. And I talk about this a lot. If you listen to the podcast or some of these trainings, you need a why behind why you're going to do this. If you don't have a strong why, and a why could be anything for you. It could be leaving your job, it could be providing more income for your family, it could be, starting a business with a family member. It could be, creating a generational wealth business as well, which is what I'm after. What is that why for you? Why do you want more income? Why do you want another 5K a month? Why do you not want another 10K a month? Why do you want to hit 20K a month? What is that 20K a month going to give you? If you had 20K a month right now, what would you do with your time? What would you do with your day? And you really need to sit down and think about that, and sit down and think about why you want to grow this business. Because when things get tough and you're doing something new, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, things are going to get tough. You're learning a new skill. This is not, you know, I try and make it sound as easy as I can and how much I love this business, but it is not easy when you're starting. It's still not easy. The problems are just different. As we've grown our business from, one property, 10 to leaving Google to 20, now to almost 30, they're just different problems at each level. And so you need to have a strong why that's going to push you forward and pull you forward past that, little bit of uncomfortability, right? So, what is that why and what is that goal for you? There's a really good YouTube video. It's called 7 Layers Deep with Dean Graziosi. If you want to just give that a search, you can go and watch. I think it's like a 12-minute video he did, but he teaches you how to ask yourself why multiple times. I think it's 7 times in order to get to that real layer that will pull you out of tough situations. So that's what you need first. The second thing that you need is you need some sort of offer or unique selling proposition. So, think about what type of property, what type of owner, what type of location, like what's going to make you and your company different than all the other property management and co-hosts out there. If your company is going to serve 1 bedroom properties and studio properties and also serve 7 bedroom properties like Vacasa does, you're probably going to have a wide range of specialty, right? And that's tough to grow and scale a business, as you see with Vacasa, as you see with Evolve. Their standards have just completely fallen off a cliff, right? What is going to make you different? Maybe you like to focus on pet friendly properties. Maybe you like to focus on oceanfront properties. Maybe you like to focus on properties that are around golf courses. What type of value do you bring to a certain niche? Maybe you only work with doctors and physicians because your spouse is one. Maybe you only work with lawyers because your spouse is one. Or, for me, I work with a lot of guys who work in tech or guys who work in real estate because I do both of those things. I used to work in tech. Now I work in real estate, and they're busy homeowners. They like to enjoy their second home, or they're investors and they like a good return. And so I'm an investor, I'm a second homeowner, and I used to be in tech, right? And so I can speak their language more. And I just gravitate to them more and they gravitate to me more versus all the other big companies. Right? So think about what is going to make you different? What is your unique selling proposition? And then how do you get them over the fear of moving from self-managing or from using a different property manager to using you? Are there different guarantees that you want to offer? Maybe you want to offer a 5-star guarantee. My company offers that. We have a couple clients that are on that, and and we only take a commission unless we get a 5-star, or if we get a 4-star, or 3-star, or 2-star, we do not take a commission. If we get no review, we still take a commission. It's not our fault they didn't review us. But what is the pain of the homeowner that they have? A lot of the Vacasa properties have 4-star reviews, 4.2-star reviews. They're not getting booked because people are reading those reviews and they're like, crap, these reviews suck. But I see this other property that's nearby that's pretty cool. It's got 5 stars. I'm going to go stay at that place, even if I have to pay an extra $100, $200, $300 more, because I know my experience is going to be better because the experience was shit for a lot of other people who stayed at the Vacasa property, right? So maybe it's something like that. Maybe it's a revenue guarantee that you give. So maybe you're an investor and you're really good at the numbers and you love the numbers and you love the price lab stuff. Maybe you guarantee the existing property manager, I'll beat their revenue from last year. And if I don't, I'll pay you the difference, right? So if they made 30K last year and sent you 30K, if I hit 28, I'll give you 2K, right? I'll give you 2 grand or something like that. You can put some sort of guarantee in place to make them feel better about working with you if you really don't have a ton of experience right now. And that's also part of it too. People are like, "Hey Mike, like how do I get that first client?" The first client asked me, or first potential client asked me, "Hey, you don't have any properties. Like why should I work with you?" Well, first of all, what I typically tell people is first of all, yes, you're right. I don't have any properties right now, and that's why your property is going to get 100% of my attention, and I'm going to make sure this property is successful because my business that I've invested all this time and all this money into relies now on me making sure this first property is successful. And here's the reasons why I think this property is going to be successful. And it's going to be your revenue strategy, your marketing strategy, how you're going to be different there, how you're going to be different with guest communications and managing the cleaners, how you're going to give it personalized care and focus, personalized, new photos. You're going to do lifestyle photos. I'm going to do a whole training next week, guys, on how to improve a property. So how to take a property that's existing and how to improve it without spending any money into it. I'll also give you some tips on what I would do if you do want to spend money into it, but how you are going to come in and show them that this property is going to be successful by working with you. Not only like what you're going to do, but how the property is going to perform differently. And then you can add some sort of revenue guarantee to that. Whatever that offer is for you, whatever is going to make you different. I like to use ChatGPT to kind of help prompt me on, creating a new offer. I tell it, hey, think like Alex Hormozy and help me create my new short-term rental or vacation rental offer for my clients. Who should I focus on? It'll ask you some prompts, ask you some questions, and it'll just give you some clarity on how to create this offer and how to create this unique selling proposition that you need in order to acquire your clients. So once you have an idea of what that offer is, you absolutely need some business SOPs. So you absolutely need a contract. If you don't have a contract right now, you can go pay a lawyer for it. Everybody in our mastermind has a template of our contract. You can use ChatGPT if you want. I don't recommend that. I don't know how well they know your state's laws and everything. But anyways, you need a contract. You absolutely need an LLC. You need a company. You are doing business, whether you're co-hosting or whether you're doing property management. You need an LLC, and then you need insurance for that LLC as well. So if you're going to be managing the property or you're going to be associated with that property, if somebody slips and falls and bangs their head and sues or wants to sue anybody for damages, they're going to sue anybody involved in that property, the cleaner, if they know who the handyman is, the property manager, the owner, the pool company, anybody who's associated with that property, they're going to try and get damages from. And so you need to be an additional insured on the homeowner's property, as you know, and be on their liability policy. But two, you also need it for your company as well. So if you don't know what type of insurance to use as a co-host or as a property manager, just drop insurance in the comments and I will send you my reference who I use, Wister, for insurance for my company. And I mean, I think there's probably like 50 of us that all use Wister as well. So I highly recommend that. As part of that, you also need, once you have the LLC set up once you have the insurance, you need a website, you need a logo. Obviously, you need a company name too. So you need those things in order to really start promoting yourself and promoting your company and promoting your business. Next, we're going to talk about market selection. Market selection. Airbnb works everywhere. It all starts with you, in my opinion. You don't want to be in my opinion, multiple markets. I'm in 6 markets right now in North Carolina, but I also have 6 different teams. I have 6 different cleaners. I have, 6 different handymen. I have 6 different contractors in all these 6 different markets, right? And I'm able to do it because I've built good relationships in all of these markets, and I kind of grew in different markets inside of North Carolina. I wouldn't want to be in 6 different markets in 6 different time zones. I typically recommend you want to focus on 1 to 2 markets to begin with and really just dominate your niche and dominate that market. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doubling down on the market that's close to me. I've got 13 properties here and at the beach, which is all within I'd say like a 40-mile radius. And economies of scale can improve as we grow and get bigger, right? But think about the markets that you want to go into. You want to start with yourself and you want to think about, all right, do I like this market? One, is it a market I like going to? Is it a market I want to do business in? If it's not, move on, right? And you can write down a list of markets that you like, but I typically recommend just start with like 10 different markets. And inside of those 10 markets, do you like that market? One, do you have relationships in that market? Are you familiar with that market? Do you know people there? You have friends there? Have you vacationed there? Our first market that we went into to purchase our first house it was for us because we loved it as a second home. But then we got a co-hosting deal there, and it was like, hey, I can just plug them into this system, right? If you own a property somewhere right now, let's say you live in California, but you got a property in the Smokies, which I know a lot of you do, focus on the Smokies. Like ask people down there, who's the property managers in your neighborhood? Ask your neighbors, people where you have relationships, like get to know that market and figure out if it's a good fit for you, right? Obviously, the bigger homes typically bring in more revenue, and more revenue typically means more commission for you. So, but the more revenue that's there, probably the more property managers that's there too. So you get more competition, right? So, the vacation rental markets are typically the ones that have the bigger houses. Now, if you're in a city, or somebody asked me like, hey, I live in Boston, but I've got my properties in Kansas City, and there aren't a ton of properties that can do 100K or more in Kansas City, but I've got a team there. I know people there. I've got family there. Like it all just makes sense for me to add more properties there. I say yes as well. Like you don't have to go to 30A where you have no relationships in, but they've got houses that can do 200-300K. It's going to be a lot more difficult to get a homeowner to work with you when you have no experience and no properties in that market. You can absolutely do it. It's just going to take you a little bit longer, right? You're just going to have to make more phone calls. You're going to have to do more due diligence. You're going to have to do more work to get them to trust you. You're going to have to build a team in that market as well. So I typically say like pick 2 markets, one market that you know really, really well, that you have relationships in, maybe you're already operating in, and then if you're not operating in that market, talk to the cleaners, talk to the real estate agents, talk to those local lenders, get a feel for the local vacation rental management industry. Look at some of the properties on AirDNA or look at some of the properties on Airbnb that are doing really, really well, and then start building relationships in that market. And once you have 2 markets nailed down, here's where you start reaching out to potential owners, right? And potential people that have properties already is what I recommend. And one of the biggest ways that you can acquire properties and that I'm still using is the UI method. So the UI method stands for the underserved investor method. Long story short, 2020, there's about 1.2 million STRs in the United States. Fast forward next year, there's going to be over 2 million short-term rentals in the United States. That's 800,000 in 5.5 years. That is a lot of properties. And a lot of them were managed by either self-hosts or by really big property managers. And so the really big property managers have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, which means they have less control and less focus on the homes, which means the homes are starting to decrease in revenue, but they're starting to underperform, even though they're really nice homes. So I did a whole training on this, guys. If you want to just if you want to drop UI method in the chat, I'll send you this whole in-depth training, but I'm going to run through step by step what the new UI method looks like. And I'm going to share my screen, and you don't need a license to AirDNA, guys. I believe this is the pro license that I have. I also have an advanced license. You can also simply go on Airbnb and start the UI method here as well. But what you want to do is identify those underperforming properties that are in the market that you want to be in. I'm going to start with Airbnb. So Raleigh, for some reason, Raleigh has picked up for me. So I'm just going to go through and look at some properties in Raleigh. And I want to look at some of the bigger houses in Raleigh. So a lot of these properties here at the top, as you can see, Airbnb does like to push the properties that have really good ratings, right? And you see some new ones on here, but a lot of these properties are self-hosted by superhosts on that first page. On the second page, a lot of these guys are superhosts, but I'm really looking for properties that are probably struggling a little bit. Like this one right here has got a 4.78. This one right here has got a 4.76. So I'm going to take a look and see why these properties don't have that good of reviews. So this is hosted by Dev. Dev looks like maybe a single property host. Yeah, so I'm just looking at their profile. Single property host. I want to make sure you guys, yeah, you can still see it. So I'm going to go back and look through some of these reviews. So they've gotten some 4-star reviews, they've gotten some 3-star reviews, and I want to figure out why. What were some of the issues that this property had? Now they're still getting some pretty good reviews, especially lately. They may have had some hiccups probably at the beginning. Poorly stocked for a kitchen that size. So that was the 3-star review. I don't think you can filter in here to star rating. Let's see here. Doesn't look like you can filter to star rating. That's why I like using something like AirDNA, something like STRIQ, B&B Cal can help you do this as well. But just identifying underperforming properties, and let's just use this one as a use case now. So what you need to do is identify where that property is. So on a map, look at where this property is. It looks like it's in New Hill, North Carolina, it looks like. And it's kind of close to the New Hope Trail. So I'm just going to go to maps and I'm going to go to New Hill, North Carolina. And we said it was near a body of water, right? Let's see if I can find that New Hope Trail. And I just want to find out where this property is. So I go on the map. Yeah, here's US 1. Yep. So I've got to find, it's like it was on the right, maybe in here, kind of in this area. Here's the New Hope Trail. All right. Let's see the name of this property. Probably doesn't. Tuscan Villa. So I'm going to zoom in again. See if I can find that property on a map. Could be this property right here. Looks pretty similar. This one's kind of tough because it's pretty far off the road, it looks like. But Woodhaven Drive and Shaddix Drive. So there's Shaddix, there's Woodhaven. It looks like it's probably this house right here. It's looking like. So I'm going to try and see if I can go to a street view and get the address. This one, I picked a tough use case here. But let's see if I can. So this address right here, it's probably not this home, but just for time's sake, I'm going to figure out, all right, 3825 P Ridge Road. That's what it is. 35, yeah, P Ridge Road. So there's a lot of houses in this area. It's a lot easier if it's not in a wooded area, if it's like right on the beach. It would be a lot easier to find, but I'm just picking a random home that's out in the sticks. And then you can use something like prop wire, which is what I use, uh, to New Hill to get the address and find out who the property owner is. Okay. So I want to figure out who the owner is. Looks like it's a 3-2. I'm going to contact the owner. Anthony Lynn Holland is the owner of this property, 3825 P Ridge Road. I can pay for prop wire, which is what I do, to skip trace and actually get the homeowner's information. And that's what I do. You can also use something like True People Search. I think prop wire is like $100 a month. But then I get the phone number and some possible email addresses for this homeowner, and then I reach out to him and basically say, "Hey, I'm a local co-host in the area," or I even say, "Hey, I'm a local owner in the area. I noticed you got a vacation home that's on Airbnb. I noticed like some of the reviews are struggling, and I just want to reach out as a co-host and see if I can help you increase your revenue just by increasing your review score." And you can send texts, you can drop voicemails, you can give them a call, but just reaching out to them in a place of, "Hey, I'm just here to help. And it sounds like you're struggling a little bit." And what I typically recommend is make a big list. So this is my list. I've got, over probably 200 properties. Yeah, 275 properties on here. I've got contact information for a bunch of them. Just reaching out as a local homeowner in the area. That can be of assistance. It's not like from a, "Hey, I'm going to come sell you something," or, extend your car warranty, right? It's from a place of, "Hey, this property's struggling." Part of it too is like Airbnb is getting a really bad reputation because there are bad property managers out there that don't give a crap about the neighbors and about how the guests are actually treating the property. They're not screening guests properly, and it creates havoc in our neighborhoods and for our neighbors. And so you need to step in and make sure that doesn't happen, or else Airbnb is going to continue to get a bad reputation, right? So that's why I'm a big believer in doing the UI method, and really saving these homeowners from having to struggle managing these properties if they're a self-host, or from using a big property manager like Vacasa, like Evolve, or maybe it's the massive property manager that manages 20 plus or 200 plus properties in your market. Right. So Cindy said the UI method you would send us, is it updated for your newest that you're sharing today? Yeah. In that, I also show how to use PropWire and show how to use AirDNA to do it. AirDNA did change their UI a little bit. It's actually a little bit easier now to create comp sets. So it is a really nice change. So once you reach out to these people and have a conversation with them, they're probably going to invite you to make a proposal, or you can tell them, "Hey, I'll just put a little proposal together. I'll tell you about our company in that proposal, but then also tell you how much I think that property can make just based on underwriting skills using AirDNA, using comps in the other area. Maybe you have some comps." And that's really putting together a proposal or a pitch deck. And I wanted to show you guys what mine looks like. And I will offer this up to you guys as well. So this is what mine looks like. This is a subject property I was running an analysis on about a year ago, but this is kind of the template that I use. I put a revenue range together for the potential client. I put together what makes us different from some of the other property managers in the area. I put together what our marketing strategy is for our company. I put together some considerations of ways that they could invest in the property to make their property stand out a little bit more, and what we would do to do that. And then I put together some comps, homes that are local, one that I manage, a couple that I don't manage, but other good comps that support this revenue range that I put together for them. And then have a basically a proposal at the bottom. So 25% of gross revenue, 130 a month tech fee. This is what mine was. Now it's 20 and 140, and then a $1,500 onboarding. So if you guys want this template, I'm happy to give it to you. So you can use this to acquire more clients. Please use this as well. Please take my photo out of it and my name and my company's name out of it. But feel free to use this to help you go acquire more clients. And all you need to do is drop pitch deck in the comments. Take a look at it, make it your own, tweak it if you want to. I know people have, and it's helped close hundreds of deals over the last few months since I started giving this out. But just drop pitch deck in the comments. Some of you guys that are in the mastermind probably already have this, but it's a really good way to just show in one place what you do and what you're going to do for a client that has a property that you can take over and manage. So that's really it for today, guys. That's what I wanted to share with you. Next week, a lot of you guys have been freaking out and asking me about this whole host fee that is now going to be 15% starting in October. So I've got a CFO, N. Coons, from he runs a bookkeeping company, Keystone Bookkeeping, and he's going to break it down for us using math on what we should do and what you should do and what I'm going to do with this whole new model that Airbnb is rolling out with in October. If you're not familiar with what's going on, Airbnb is getting rid of the guest fee and is going all on the host. So if you don't do anything in October, you're basically losing about 14%, 15% of your revenue. And then the following week, that's where I'm going to be talking through how to improve a property. Just remember, guys, acquiring clients is not about sales techniques or anything like that. It's about providing a service that's of value to you and of value to the homeowner. And it's going to make their life easier, make them more money. And also you're going to charge for that service too. Come from a place of service.